there's a lot you can do with it. People kind of underestimate the value of the pentatonic scale. Just to give you an example of what I mean, if there's a G minor chord, people, they know you can play a G minor pentatonic scale, but that's kind of it. Or if it's a G major chord, then oftentimes people will know that they can play an E minor pentatonic scale. But there's actually a lot more options. For example, of a G major chord, you could play E minor pentatonic, A minor pentatonic, or B minor pentatonic. In fact, if it was a major 7 chord, you could even play an F sharp minor pentatonic. And you're talking about the exact same pentatonic scale that you already know, but just beginning from different places, and you can get all of these different colors, for lack of a less asinine word to use. But let's start really small today and just take a couple of them and then really try to just hammer it in so that it becomes like old news before we learn some of the other applications. Sound like a plan? All right, cool. So let's just try, we'll just start really basic, so bear with me. So now here's what we're going to do today. We're going to take that one mode of the minor pentatonic scale, meaning that one shape, but we're going to see how we can apply it over different chords. All right? Different chords. So if we're going to have fairly bad voice leading here, but that's because we're talking mostly about the application of the scale rather than all the modes of the scale and being able to play it really musically. We're just going to talk about the theory of it for now, okay? So if we had let's say a minor blues, we just did like a 1-4-5 chord progression, but all with all minor chords, let's say, just to really break it down into one thing where we're just practicing this one mode and everything. We'll do A minor, and then over that you play A minor pentatonic. The next chord in a 1-4-5 blues would be D minor, right? And we're going to play D minor pentatonic. We're going to do the exact same shape. Starting up at the 10th fret. Yep. Alright, so then after that we got an E minor. So we're just going to go up to the 12th fret and do our same shape. Then it goes to the D minor, so we're going to go down 2 frets. And then back to the A. And then to the E. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So here's our one chord. It's a 4 chord. And then back to the beginning. I'll do it one more time. Okay, now I'm only using one chord shape, right? The one that'll take me around the roots on the low E string. And I'm going to do the same thing with the minor pentatonic scale. So obviously this is not the greatest technique. It's not the greatest voice leading, but just making sure we play the scale in the right place over the chord, or the right scale over the right chord. And we're being very selective. There's other options, but we're only going to be doing like the minor pentatonic from the root position. So here we have. Now see if you can hear the changes. See what I'm talking about? Like you can hear the changes going by when I'm just playing those. Okay? Now, obviously, it'd be more musical if we were playing like from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, back to the 1, and then to the 5. So next we're gonna try the same progression, but everything's gonna be major chords. So we're gonna do A major. You can do a dominant if you want. The same to D7, and back to A7, then to E7, D7, A7, and then E. We're taking the same shape. We're only using one shape. Up to E. Okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to try to use the minor pentatonic scale over that chord. Now, the way we're going to do that is, I mean, there's a way we could bend the minor thirds, and then we'd have that bluesy sound like this. But we're gonna not do that for right now. We're gonna try to play the major pentatonic. That's right, but the minor and the major, they're one and the same. Just like with your major scale, you had the Ionian mode and the Aeolian mode, which are both modes of the major scale. But Aeolian is actually the exact same as when somebody says the minor scale. Aeolian is the minor scale, but it's also a mode of the major scale. They're not unrelated to each other. They're actually the same notes starting from a different place, different modes of the same scale. Okay? So now the same is true of your minor pentatonic scale. All right? Your minor pentatonic and your major pentatonic. So what we're going to try is we're going to play the same shape as though it were a major pentatonic. And how we'll do that is we'll start by putting our pinky on the root instead of our index finger. Just to... What's that? That's right. If we're doing an A7 chord, you could put your pinky on the A, and that's where your minor pentatonic shape would fall. How an A7 chord looks? That'd be the 5th fret of the low E string on the A, and then the 5th fret of the D string, and then the 6th fret of the G string. Now, there's other ways you could do it, but that's a pretty popular voicing. That sounds good. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So then we're basically, instead of playing an A minor pentatonic over an A dominant chord, what we want to do is we want to play an F sharp minor pentatonic, and then we'll be playing it's the same as to say the A major pentatonic. Trick is really have that A7 in your ear. The reason that's really important is because you'll play that minor pentatonic scale differently if it's major or minor. There's different notes that become the center of gravity because there's different roots. You know, you're just taking the same shape, but the root will change. Just as an example, if we were playing the minor pentatonic from A, that would be our root. But if we're playing the major pentatonic, meaning F sharp minor, if you played this note, it's the 6th, not the root, and the 6th doesn't have nearly the same gravity that the root would have, because it's not a chord tone for one, okay? And that means that you're not going to want to emphasize the same notes that you would before. Does that make sense, Tim? All right, cool. So that if we were to play the same progression, but the A7s instead of minors, you'd be playing F sharp minor pentatonic, and then when D7 rolls around, you'd be playing B minor pentatonic. And then back to your F sharp minor. Then when your E7 comes around, you'd be playing C sharp minor. Then D7, so you, D7, then you go back to your B. And then your A7, so you go back to your F sharp. And then when you go back to that E, you go back to your C sharp. So if I were to play the progression as the major pentatonic, I'm going to try to keep my same minor pentatonic shape. Just use the same one that we were using for minor. It's just starting from 3 frets below it. All right, so it'd sound like this. Now, do you see how you can apply that over major, minor, and dominant chords, Tim? Okay, so now what we want to do is let's try a more difficult task. You ready? Let's take a song out of the real book that has a lot of different chords in orders that we don't usually, it's not like a blues progression or something that we've been doing for many, many years, but something that's like, oh, that's strange, And then we're going to try to use that one pentatonic shape over all those chords.